Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel on this absolutely gorgeous day where the sun is shining, but the drama in Los Angeles is casting some incredibly dark shadows over the fashion world. Let's dive right into the explosive chaos unfolding today. You really have to stop and ask yourself what it takes to push a woman over the edge of sanity when she has already survived decades of scandals and corporate takeovers and family betrayals, because Brooke Logan has seen it all, but this time it is different. This time the knife is buried so deep in her back that it is practically severing her spine, and the hands holding the hilt belong to her own flesh and blood. She walked through those glass doors at the house of Logan like a woman possessed by demons of vengeance, and you could practically feel the temperature in the building drop by 10 degrees. People were scattering in the hallways. Assistants were ducking behind desks. Brooke was not there to negotiate or play nice or pretend that family comes first, because family is exactly what was just used to publicly humiliate her in front of 4 million people on a live runway stream. She was blindsided, completely and utterly blindsided. And, it is not just about the fashion show or the hope for the future, diamond glittering on her daughter's neck while Bill Spencer smirked from the front row like the cat who ate the canary and stole the entire Forrester legacy. It is about the secrecy, the absolute suffocating weight of the lies that Katie and Hope and even Donna kept from her for weeks while she was marching into Forrester Creations day after day, defending her daughter to Steffi and Ridge. Brooke put her own marriage on the line. She demanded the co-CEO chair. She fought tooth and nail for Hope's place in that company while Hope had already signed her soul over to the competition. Brooke looks like a fool, a complete and utter fool. So when she finally reaches Katie's office, she does not even bother to knock. She just shoves the door open with enough force to crack the hinges, and the look on her face is something out of a horror movie. Katie is standing there, probably reviewing the stellar press clippings from the launch and feeling like she finally stepped out of the massive, suffocating shadow that Brooke has cast over her entire life. But that victory lap is cut short. Brooke unleashes a tidal wave of fury that bounces off the walls of that sleek modern office, and it is loud, and it is ugly, and it is deeply, deeply personal. She points a trembling finger at her youngest sister and calls her a despicable coward, a traitor. You have to wonder if Brooke even hears the words coming out of her own mouth sometimes, because the sheer hypocrisy of her accusing anyone of being a traitor is just staggering when you look at their history. But Brooke is not thinking about the past right now. She is entirely consumed by the present and the image of her daughter gliding down that runway under the Logan banner. She accuses Katie of orchestrating this entire defection behind her back, specifically to ruin her life. She screams that Katie is a vile manipulator who lured Hope away from Forrester Creations just to score a cheap point in some imaginary sibling rivalry that Katie refuses to let go of. It is a brutal character assassination. Just brutal. And Katie is standing there taking it at first because she knows Brooke is hurting, but then the accusations get darker and more twisted. Brooke starts screaming that Katie does not even care about Hope's talent or her career or her future. She claims Katie is just using Hope as a pawn to get revenge for all the times Brooke hurt her in the past. She brings up the old wounds, the resentment. Brooke essentially says Katie is weaponizing her own niece just to stick it to the golden sister who always got everything she wanted. It is the kind of argument that permanently breaks families apart. There is no coming back from these words. None. But Katie is not the same meek little sister she used to be, and she is certainly not going to stand there and let Brooke steamroll her in her own building that she built with her own vision. Katie fires back with a ferocity that actually makes Brooke physically recoil for a split second. She tells Brooke that she gave Hope the opportunity to succeed and shine and be the star she was born to be, which is a hell of a lot more than she was getting at Forrester Creations, where Steffi was constantly burying her line and treating her like an unwanted intern. Katie's voice is rising now, matching Brooke decibel for decibel. She is defending her business. She is defending her niece. Why can't Brooke see that Hope is a grown woman who made her own choice to leave a toxic work environment where her own mother couldn't even protect her from Steffi's wrath? Katie throws this reality right in Brooke's face. She reminds Brooke that Hope is Deacon Sharp's daughter, and she has her own mind and her own ambitions, and she does not need her mother fighting her battles, especially when her mother is losing those battles. It is a harsh truth, a necessary truth, but Brooke is completely blinded by her own ego and her own sense of ownership over her daughter's life. She cannot accept that Hope chose Katie over her. The psychological warfare happening in this room is just staggering because these two women know exactly where all the bodies are buried, and they know exactly which buttons to push to inflict the maximum amount of emotional damage. Brooke starts pacing the room like a caged tiger, waving her arms frantically as she dismisses everything Katie is saying as a pathetic justification for theft. She calls Katie a thief, a literal thief who steals designs and steals employees and now steals family members. And that is when the argument crosses a line into incredibly dangerous territory. Calling Katie a family thief is perhaps the most tone deaf and cruel thing Brooke Logan could possibly say, considering she literally slept with Katie's husband, Bill Spencer, and blew up her marriage and devastated her life not that long ago. The absolute audacity of Brooke standing there in Katie's office playing the victim of family theft is enough to make your blood boil. Katie's face turns a shade of pale that is genuinely alarming as the weight of that accusation hits her. You can see the physical reaction in her body. The tension is snapping her muscles like rubber bands. She screams at Brooke to get out. Katie demands that Brooke leave the building immediately because she is not going to listen to a woman who stole her husband lecture her about loyalty and family values. But Brooke is relentless. She refuses to leave. She steps closer to Katie, invading her personal space and continuing to hurl these vicious, venomous insults right in her face. The noise is deafening. The air in the room is so thick with hatred and adrenaline that it feels like you could cut it with a knife. It is a suffocating environment. And we all know that Katie Logan has a medical history that makes these kinds of high stress confrontations incredibly dangerous for her physical health. We are talking about a woman who has survived heart failure and a heart transplant thanks to their late brother, Storm, who literally blew his own brains out so Katie could live. Storm's heart is beating inside Katie's chest right now, and Brooke knows this better than anyone on the planet. Brooke knows that Katie's heart cannot handle this level of sustained emotional trauma. But the rage has completely overridden Brooke's basic human empathy. She just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. You can see the exact moment when the argument shifts from a corporate dispute to a life or death medical emergency. Katie is mid-sentence trying to defend her love for Hope and her vision for the company when she suddenly stops dead in her tracks. Her eyes go wide. The color completely drains from her face, leaving her looking like a ghost. She lifts a trembling hand and clutches the center of her chest right over that transplanted heart. The silence that follows is more terrifying than all the screaming that came before it. It is a heavy, ominous silence. Brooke stops yelling. She freezes. For a split second, she probably thinks Katie is just being dramatic or trying to manipulate the situation to end the argument because that is how twisted their dynamic has become. But then Katie lets out this horrible, ragged gasp for air. It sounds like she is drowning on dry land. Her knees buckle slightly and she reaches out to grab the edge of her sleek modern desk just to keep herself upright. The papers from the fashion launch scatter across the floor as her fingers slip. She is suffocating. The sheer terror in Katie's eyes is something that will likely haunt Brooke for the rest of her life, assuming she has a conscience left under all that blonde hair and self-righteous indignation. Katie cannot speak. She is just staring at Brooke while her chest heaves erratically and her body begins to shut down under the immense psychological and physical pressure of this brutal confrontation. It is happening so fast. 1 second they are fighting about fashion, and the next second Katie is fighting for her life. Brooke's expression morphs from pure rage to absolute unadulterated horror. Katie whispers a faint sound that doesn't even form a complete word before her grip on the desk completely gives way and she collapses. It is not a graceful Hollywood faint. It is a brutal, terrifying fall. She hits the floor of the House of Logan with a sickening thud, her body crumpling into a motionless heap right at Brooke's expensive designer shoes. The woman who just orchestrated the biggest fashion coup of the decade is now lying unconscious on the floor of her own empire. Brooke falls to her knees, screaming her sister's name now, the anger completely evaporating into a cloud of panic and desperation. She is shaking Katie, trying to wake her up, but Katie is unresponsive. The heart that Storm gave her, the heart that Brooke just verbally battered into submission, is struggling to keep a rhythm. Brooke is crying uncontrollably, her hands hovering over Katie's chest, not knowing what to do. She is screaming for help, screaming for someone, anyone to call an ambulance. The hallway outside the office erupts into chaos as employees rush in to see the horrifying scene. What happens next is going to define the Logan family for generations to come, because if Katie does not survive this, or if she suffers permanent damage, Brooke will never be able to wash the blood off her hands. She caused this. She walked into this building looking for a fight, and she pushed her medically fragile sister into a cardiac event over a fashion line. A fashion line. The sheer triviality of the trigger compared to the magnitude of the consequence is just mind-boggling. How does Brooke ever look hope in the eye again? How does she look Donna in the eye? And let's talk about Bill Spencer for a second, because when Bill finds out that Brooke barged into his wife's office and triggered a heart attack, there is going to be hell to pay. Bill already hates the Forresters and he is already on a collision course with Ridge, but this is going to turn a corporate fashion war into a blood feud. Bill will destroy Brooke. He will tear down whatever is left of her life and he won't lose a wink of sleep over it. The fallout from this single collapse is going to radiate outward and shatter every single relationship in Los Angeles. As the sirens wail in the distance, echoing through the canyons and valleys of Beverly Hills, Brooke is left sitting on the cold, hard floor of the House of Logan, holding her sister's lifeless hand. The runway lights have faded. The applause from the fashion show is a distant memory. All that is left is the devastating reality of a family completely torn apart by ambition and jealousy and a refusal to just let things go. The Logan sisters have survived so much over the years, but you have to wonder if this is the final breaking point. You have to wonder if Storm is looking down right now, shaking his head at the absolute mess his sisters have made of the second chance he gave them. Is this the end of the line for Katie Logan? Will the doctors at the hospital be able to stabilize that precious transplanted heart before it is too late? Or has Brooke's relentless cruelty finally accomplished what years of illness could not? The absolute tragedy of it all is that Hope was just trying to find her own voice and build her own legacy, and instead she might have inadvertently signed her aunt's death warrant by keeping this secret. The guilt is going to consume Hope just as much as it consumes Brooke. We are looking at a total emotional apocalypse for the Logan family, and honestly, I don't see how anyone walks away from this without permanent scars. The fashion war doesn't even matter anymore. Nothing matters except the faint, erratic beating of a heart that has already endured far too much pain.